Welcome to the Point Man Podcast. This is a mic'd up men's group of 4 Catholic fathers challenging each other to be the point men for their families.
I am a fighter. I am a fighter.
All right, welcome back to the Point Man Podcast. This is Season 4, Episode 6. We've got a great guest lined up today, Mr. Jack Jensen. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Great. Before we get dived in, we're going to do a quick check-in. Sam, why don't you start us off today?
All right. Went hunting last night with my oldest son and shot a doe right at the end of, daylight, which was a big excitement. However, I was using a 223 round, so there's no blood trail. We had to track that thing down at night in the freezing rain, 16-degree weather. And my son, to his credit, just was all about it, trying to chase it down. I was freezing. We were doing circles for a long time, too long. My buddy Hunter found it, brought it out, skinned it, coldest skinning that I've been a part of. Just dropped off the deer this morning, so big win all the way around. Didn't even have to put ice in the chest, just let it freeze last night.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, it's not good to follow that story because I was basically home with the kids, all warm, cozy. I think they watched a movie last night, so I feel less of a man right now, so thanks, Sam, for that. But I did. Everybody was fed, and no, I didn't take anybody to the ER this time.
That's a win.
So praise God. So, speaking of ERs, that was one thing that I learned that I need to do a little bit better job with my son is teach some basic skills with a hatchet. So he was outside with his friends. This was last week, or maybe it's been a couple weeks actually. He was building a fort, which I really enjoy that they're actually doing that. And so he was taking the bamboo and he was holding it in his hand with a hatchet. So I these are skills that I learned growing up that I didn't pass on to him because I guess things can get kind of busy. So he's holding the bamboo stick. And he has the hatchet in hand, and he wants to split the hatchet to kind of conserve the bamboo for the fort that they're building, right? Well, he cuts, he good aim, he hits the bamboo, it slices the bamboo, but then also it slices his finger and 2 tendons. Mm-hmm. So then it goes into going to see the specialist, going into surgery, and now 12 weeks of rehab.
Didn't Jude split his toes?
He
too,
did. So we're having some issues with blades.
Yeah.
The blade, he was running at the Enk's house. This
Blade
is part
runner
of
over here.
Exactly right. So he runs in with the bare feet, hits the shovel, and that's 6 stitches on his big toe. He sends a picture to me. This was before we were doing a family retreat. He sends me a picture and he says, "Dad," he says, "does this need stitches?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's 11 toes I'm counting. You need 2 of those need to come back together as one."
He's a tough guy.
Yeah, he's crazy. So it's great. So he was, but I told him as we're driving to the ER and I'm in the room and I'm like, "Son, I'm just glad that you're out and about, going out in adventure, and it's risky business. But I'd rather you be doing this than staying inside and playing on the iPad or whatever, the computers and stuff like that." So anyway, I feel like I had to find some story to kind of compete with taking son deer hunting into the icy waters.
I wish I was by a fire last night. Yeah.
So anyway, wrap it up. I sent him and all of his friends that they were together with videos on safety with hatchets, knives, and axes. So I said, this is important viewer to do anything else. We can make sure you watch these videos. Anyway.
I need to share that with my kids too. We have a lot of hatchets and axes and knives lying around the house. So
you think you know how to handle it,
Yeah.
but
And my 4-year-old wants to chop firewood last night. That's
It's already chopped, son.
yeah.
I don't want to chop it again.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're doing pretty good. Yeah, it's fun getting prepared for the freeze a little bit, and the kids are out this morning. They're so excited, from icicles and slipping around on the concrete and
Narnia
everything. So we're having a little trouble finding that groove, getting back into our routine. Back into school because it seems like they're off for a bad weather forecast.
Yes.
But yeah, everything's good.
People up north are laughing at us.
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine in the neighborhood, I think Chicago feels like negative 22 degrees this morning. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Fully operational.
We're
too.
soft. Yeah, and they're fully operational.
Yeah, fully operational.
Yeah.
I fully support kids cutting their fingers and toes. I think it's part of the rite of passage. My 5-year-old almost cut his thumb off about 2 months ago. So That's
just
important.
a quick story. Drew. You got your own take, but we went to pick up a jacket that your wife graciously lent to my wife for a trip, and I pull up to his driveway, and his two boys are out in the ditch with shovels digging the mud. I just rolled my window up. Boys, what are you doing? We're digging. I was like, Drew is definitely your dad. Just unleashed.
Yes,
Yeah, just
it's
digging
awesome.
in the mud.
We're known as the ditch boys in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great. Our neighbors love us for the most part. You know,
They look like they were totally having a blast.
they do.
Yeah.
Last night was a big night. 8-year-old son was first round of the playoffs for basketball.
All right.
Cool.
Super fun. It was a tie game, 6-6, went to overtime, and we ended up winning 8-6. I'm surprised at how much fun 8-year-old basketball is to watch.
8-6 in a basketball
8-6 in a
game.
basketball game.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
It was a ton of fun.
high scoring game over here.
we won 31-2 last week, and it was just solid defense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
solid
yeah.
defense.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I'll wrap it up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me here. Get into this podcast and talk about what's going on. Of course, my life's a little boring now. I have 7 kids and 19 grandkids, and I think I had 15 at the house this weekend. And
Oh man.
it's a zoo when they come over, so half of them are playing pickleball, and the other we have about 14 or 15 Nerf guns that everybody
Yes.
gets, and then. They all leave, and you go into the bathroom upstairs. You find guns and ammo all over the place that they stash.
That
and-
sounds amazing.
But it's fun stuff. It's fun stuff seeing the kids grow up, and we got 2 in actually got 3 in high school now. 2 boys at St. Paul's and 1 at SSA. So they're just growing up. The rest of them go to Our Lady of the Lake, and we have 17 of them here, and 2 live in California. So
Wow.
it's good to see the kids. and,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun.
Well, thank you for the update.
There is an absolute, and you know this, a war being waged right now against us and against our family. Listen to these statistics. 56% of divorces list pornography as one of the major factors leading to divorce. 56%. 60% of men in a survey said watching pornography decreased their desire to read or study God's word. C.S. Lewis said, what we practice, not what we preach, is usually our greatest contribution to conversations to others. What example are you setting for your family and community with your online behavior? If you're not personally struggling with porn, are you doing all you can to defend your family from the enemy? This is an attack that we need to guard our homes, to protect our families. Even if this is something that you're not struggling with, you still need, because we live in a pornographic culture, we need to guard our homes and guard our families. Lead the way for your wife and for your children by getting Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is a software that is installed across all your devices, phones, laptops, desktops, iPads, all that, and monitors your online activity and reports. There's reports that go to an accountability partner. That's the other great part about Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes has also blocking technology that allows you to keep the pornography off your devices. This transparency in our online behaviors fosters integrity and deepens relationships. We can't fight this alone, and we need help. So you go online to Covenant Eyes. You actually, if you use the promo code POINTMAN, then you can get, I think, a 30-day free trial. So check out Covenant Eyes, put in POINTMAN, get your 30-day free trial today.
Jason, I think before we really dive in, you had a great verse for us.
Yeah.
Why don't you start off with that?
So this is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through, I'm going to read through 9. This is the great commandment, and it goes, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God with your whole heart and with your whole being and with your whole strength. Take to heart these words which I command you today. Keep repeating them to your children. Recite them when you are at home and when you are away and when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them on your arm as a sign and let them be as a pendant on your forehead. Write them on the doorpost of your houses and on your gates."
Thank you, Jason.
Wow.
And Jack, so thanks so much for coming on the show today. And this is not, I have a bunch of questions. I'm
Okay.
really excited, but I want to let the rest of the team hop in. But where I'd like to kind of go with this is you've been married 40 plus years, which is incredible, which is no small feat today. You've got 7 children, 6 of which are in a family business, which is really just an anomaly when we look at how businesses are passed on. And not only that, you're an active, you're leading the community on the business and on the charity front. You're very involved with helping others, very involved in your Catholic faith. So it's, for me, it's just an inspiration. So thank you for being here. And
You're welcome.
as I get older, I would love to just try to emulate so many of those things as we move through time.
Sure. It's, been very blessed, 7 kids, and, Cindy and I married 45 years, but, started with one truck back in 1983, and just knew that, I went to Holy Cross High School and then didn't really want to go to college, but figured I had to because I learned so much about life at Holy Cross, but knew that I had to have a piece of paper to get a job, quite frankly. And it's
Sure.
And I went and interviewed with the SP Transport, which is a trucking division of the SP Railroad, in '79, and it was right around trucking companies were closing up, and they were, it was a rough time in the transportation business, and there was a stack of applications 6 inches high, and I got the job only because I had a degree in management. So worked at the railroad for 2 or 3 years, and then realized that I could do it better. And then went and got a truck and started trucking, and then got into the warehouse business and just grew the company from there. So we, trucking and warehousing, and in 1983, 84, there was a lot of competition in the transportation business. And what I learned to do, figured out to do, was we wanted to be in the international business. We did very little or no domestic business. We didn't get into any, and I stayed away from commodities. I stayed away from coffee, stayed away from steel, stayed away from different products that are commodities that come and go. So we stayed in the general commodities, import, export, and we grew the business, and that's where we're at today. We have 650 employees now through 4 different companies, and it was every company we built was to produce trucking for the trucking company. In 88, we started a birdseed company up in Baltimore, Maryland, where we sterilize birdseed that comes in from Ethiopia. And it's a birdseed product, but in Ethiopia they use it for a food product. It's high oil content, and whatever's left over, whatever they can export, the commodity people buy it, bring it in, and we have to sterilize it. We heat treat it 250 degrees for 30 minutes, and then we package it and then ship it out to the customers. And we're doing about 75,000 tons a year of birdseed.
That's
So
incredible.
it's a huge number. And lately, this birdseed sells for about $2 a pound. I'm like, I can buy bologna for $2 a pound, but the people love to feed their birds. It's amazing. So we do that. That's up in Baltimore, and then in New Orleans, we started right after Katrina. We started trucking granite. People importing granite. We're trucking granite, and we were trucking to a company in Memphis, and then one thing led to another, and we got into the retail business in New Orleans. And then today we have 31 stores, and we're all over the country basically. And we're the second largest importer of granite in the United States.
Holy
And
cow.
that's natural stone, and we do a lot of the quartz, which is the man-made stuff. And so we're into flooring. We got out of all plumbing except sinks, and so now we're in the top 5. We sell the most Kohler sinks in the country.
That's incredible.
So it's amazing where it goes. But everything I do is import, export, and it relates back to trucking and warehousing. And then recently we just started packaging PVC powder and polyethylene pellets. Chemical company makes them, puts it in a rail car, brings them to New Orleans, and then we unload about 350 rail cars a month, and 100% is export to various countries. So right out the port of New Orleans. And then the last thing we just started, so another thing we do is tank. We're in the tank hauling business, tank container.
Okay.
No hazardous, just liquids, basically, is what we do. So, look, it's a very diverse company, one company's up, one company's down, but you keep operating. And my goal when I started was one truck. I had to feed kids.
Yeah.
And it was not about profit. It was about making money to make sure these kids could go to school, make sure these kids could live a life that my wife and I lived. And our goal in the early part was, we had to save money, but our goal was to send them to public college, Louisiana somewhere, and the goal was for them to go get a job, not work for me. That wasn't the intentions at all. And we kept that, and they heard it. The kids heard us say that y'all have to go out. And then my son Christian, he went to Loyola and got his master's and in business, and he was just enthralled with the business, and he started working for us and in the warehouse, and then started in sales, and then it just one thing led to another, and he's working for me, and we're growing our company. And then Katrina hits, so we are debating on what to do. I get a call from the port director, Gary Lagrange, and said, "Look, we got a ship coming in. I need trucks." I said, "Gary, all my trucks are done." He said, "Jack, we got to show the country we're open." So I go to Memphis. I called the rider up in Memphis, and we got about 20 trucks because all my drivers' trucks were wet or gone. So we did. We came back to work, and we were the first trucker back to work after Katrina. And people remember that. People respect that. People knew we were here to stay. So he was working for me. Katie, my second child, Katie, oldest daughter, went to UNC. Nobody went to public schools. Everyone went to a college out of town, and I told them, I said, "Look, you got to get scholarships. You got to help." So, and they did. They all did. So, Katie went to UNC, and then she got recruited to go into the Maersk steamship line has a college for logistics, and so she was in Denmark, I think, when Katrina hit, and she's like, "What am I doing here?" So she decides. She says, "Dad, I got to come home." Right then, the granite thing started. So I said, "Look, you got to run it." And she and Rachel started that, and Rachel's my third child, and got it going real good. And today we're where we're at with the granite business. And then Mary started working for us. Mary does my accounting, some accounting work for us. My son David runs the plastic packaging business. Claire works, she handles our internet sales of the Cola sinks, which is crazy. And then my youngest daughter, Monica, said, "You guys are crazy. I ain't working for y'all." So Monica was at Auburn, and she meets a guy, and they get married, and he's from Birmingham. So they moved to Birmingham, and she now works for AirMed. So she's a pilot for AirMed. So she flies a big jet for UAB Hospital. Does very well, 2 kids, on 2 weeks, off 2 weeks, and just loves her job. I can see she was in town for 2 weeks right over Christmas holidays, and she's coming home soon. You can see she's homesick.
Yeah.
So it's good though.
That's awesome.
But we get to visit her regular. So, but you wake up every day, and the mantra is, "We're going out of business today. Leave it in God's hands." Look, and I learned early on not to worry.
Yeah.
The meal was coming, the business was coming, but I learned that, first off, read it somewhere, or somebody read it to me, that the Lord does not want you worrying. He wants you to focus on other things and doing the right thing. So, I got lawsuits coming out. You get sued you get sued every day. You got stuff happening. I'm like, it's in your hands. It's really all you can do. You only can control what you can control. And go ahead.
Worry is just such a wasted energy.
Wasted
energy. A wasted time. It's I think part of worrying is there's a fear in it, but there's a sense of control, and you think that by worrying about it, that you're going to get your hands on it and try to tackle it through worrying. And that's not how it's done. It's this surrender and trust in the Lord, one day at a time. It's the Lord says, I am a lamp unto your feet. He's not a spotlight for you to see down the road a mile or two ahead. He wants you to just take what step is in front of you today. We live in the present. The Lord is present to us right now, not in the future because we're not there yet, not in the past because it's gone, but right here. And He asks us to take that step in trust.
Yep, really, and it's look, I'm healthy. I didn't lose sleep, you know, and I realized too back early on that you got to be in touch with your kids. I mean, you gotta. So every morning I did breakfast with every one of them. And it was like 3 different breakfasts because they go into high school. 2 girls were going to everywhere. You know how it is, and you'll know how it is. But I remember every morning, and you can tell. All right, what's wrong with today? Or you can look at it was an everyday thing for me. The kids still talk about that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
so
that's so important.
it really is.
That's something I worry about is, my kids are going to grow up and they're going to fly the coop and never come back. And you got to figure out, like, how do I keep them, and man, doing breakfast every day. I mean,
You're a breakfast guy, Clint. I mean,
I love breakfast. Yeah.
But you do that with your kids, though.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
We do. We cook pancakes and do stuff like that. It's hard to make it like an everyday thing. But man, that is something that I really need to like carry with me and focus on, because I want my kids to be close to me when they grow up.
So my oldest son would go to school by himself early to Jesuit. So I'd get him up, and nothing elaborate. It would be cinnamon toast or, look, here's a bagel. I mean, whatever it was, just get some food in him. But sit down and talk to him and see what's going on for the day. And you could then get a feeling for what's happening with him. And it really worked for me. And then, as much as I could, I was home for dinner, and I was soccer coach, which I didn't know a thing about soccer in the 80s. I was, what?
You don't need to know much. Just kick the ball.
Yeah, I'd say just go, kick the ball. But
I just insulted a lot of our audience anyway.
You just did. But I didn't know anything about soccer, but I was out. Somebody had to be there, So that's what it's all about,
Being there, and that's the thing, is that, like, not underestimating the value and the importance of those little actions. That, like, we think that we have to have these big things, that we have to have these big trips. It's the little day-to-day things that speaks and then imprints onto our children the importance that we see in them and the value and the relationship that we're trying to foster.
And still to this day, I was at a meeting with the Triton people, Triton Stone, the granite company. And, there's 65, 70 people there, and I'm just like, people,
Bless you.
look, God bless you. You got to stay humble.
Yes.
Don't come out. Don't walk into the office and say, "Do you know who I am?" Stay humble. Staying humble puts you at the top of the heap. And to this day, it's still that's what we do. I mean, it's how we react in the business world. People love what we do, man. It's all about our customers, and they know it. They get it.
And part of that humility is the truth too, And I just to kind of piggyback real quick, like. A couple months ago, I got a chance to sit down. I was asked to give a talk for Legatus, which I think you're running here on the North Shore, and it was the talk was on love and using your gifts and talents. And I had the pleasure of sitting next to you, Jack. And I was telling my wife after the event, it's like I just sat next to a really impressive man. And I think what impressed me most, here I am talking about leadership, which is love, like to love the people you work with and serve and your clients, but also to use your gifts and talents. And then, here you were sharing, like, you got most of your children in the business. You can tell you love them dearly, talking about the family dinners, the breakfasts. And then you just routed off, I think, 5 businesses. I think you might even have more. And not to, like, worry about it and just, like, to roll. But how it all started was, I'm doing this for my family. And using your gifts, using your talents, and here you are, and the Lord's just blessed you tremendously. But I think at the core of it is, it's all like people say these words, but I think it's evident in your life, faith and family, and from there everything else.
Everything came together.
Yeah.
And I watch younger kids today, and I say younger, 30-year-olds, they're strictly after the money. It's strictly let's get the bankroll, go, and it's not about that. It's not. For me, it wasn't. For me, it was success. I got joy out of succeeding. I got joy of showing people our what we were made of, and we were going to be successful at what we do. But every day, looked at it like, well, we made a profit today. Everybody gets to eat tomorrow. That's. And it wasn't about the bankroll. That came.
Where did that come from? Where did the faith and where did that perspective, like, one, not to worry, but just to stay focused? Where did all that? Where that foundation originate for you? I
got to think from my dad. My dad was a milkman. My dad was is a farm boy from Iowa, moved to New Orleans with the Air Force, and we moved to Biloxi and met my mom on a blind date. My mom was from New Orleans, and my dad was Lutheran. My mother's Catholic. My dad right away became Catholic, and he was a hardworking guy. He delivered a drink route, because back in the day we would deliver soft drinks, and then he would do the milk route first, and then he would do a drink route. And that's what he did for 35 years. And we were on the milk truck with him every day, or when we could. You get up at 3 in the morning and go deliver milk, and, you just saw the work ethic. But you didn't think of it like that. Yeah. I remember the first time, at the end of the day, he gave me $1. I said, "What's this for?" He says, "That's for working." And I was like, whoa, that was $1. I mean, that was a big deal, and it just stuck with me. It just. But it's one of my managers, one of the guys at Railroad told me, Jack, you live to impress people, to show that you can succeed. I guess, but it's more of it's an inner thing. Just success came. I'm blessed. We're very blessed by it.
I think you have a servant's heart, and I'm thinking you're a servant of servants, and that's you lead. That's the humble walk in, not the do you know who I am? You know what I've done, and I think too the success in marriage and family life is that same kind of humble. You don't walk into your home to your wife or to your kids saying, "Do y'all know who I am?" Because that's not gonna. Right?
I do it sometimes. They say you go right back outside.
Right, and come back, turn around.
Yeah, turn around, and do this over.
I've got a good buddy of mine. He's a lieutenant general. He's retired lieutenant general in the Marine Corps, and he was saying when he was a mid-grade officer, he's a major. He got assigned to help out with George Herbert Walker Bush, like carrying the nuclear football code. And so he was on Air Force One, and that day he got to meet the president. So he comes home. They land in D.C. after an event, and he goes straight home. It's like 11 at night, and his wife's still up. He goes, "You won't believe the day I had." And he starts how he met the president, how he's like this big deal. And she goes, "That's great, John." She's like, "This child has a fever. This child threw up everywhere. The sink is clogged up, and the toilet needs you to take the plunger." And she just hands the plunger. He's like, "Oh, I get it." He's like, I'm a husband and a father."
Yes.
And he's like, he went from like being way up here to just be like,
plunging toilets.
God, I'm plunging toilets now.
And when you're done, take the garbage out.
Take the
That's
garbage
it.
out.
Yeah, that's it. That's really it. And the fun part is too watching the in-laws, because you know who your kids are. So you get the in-laws, and you kind of got to get them on the same wavelength, because I don't want them portraying something that we're not. And they get it. They pretty much get it. I gotta you talk to them every now and then, and and it's fun right now talking to the grandkids. It's like
very interesting.
You gotta. They want to hear from me, and it's. I want Katie's oldest daughter. She is just driven. She won't do anything but work, school stuff. I said, it's not that you got to have fun. You're good in school. You'll do good in school, but you got to have fun. That's not the life you want to do right now. You're in 8th grade, and you can't go on spring vacation because you're gonna miss 2 classes. You'll catch it up. So it's life.
Yeah.
It's basically life. And we're very we give a lot of money away because the Lord has given us a lot.
That's right.
And the more I give, the more I get. It's unbelievable. And it's a fact. I can go back and point it out different times that things have happened that, where did that come from? How did we get that business?
Yeah.
That's an interesting point too, like the generosity. I think a lot of times people think, well, I'll be generous if I'm successful or something. But it sounds like it's never easy to be generous unless you decide to be, whether you're a billionaire or you got that dollar on a milk route.
That's right.
And just saying, all right, I'm going to give here in this, and generosity is, you think it must be easy for an individual.
No.
I would ask you, I don't think it is. I think it's a decision.
It's a decision.
It's a decision.
It really is.
I think it's like a muscle. I mean, you have to exercise it early and often. And, guys who sell a company and make a big wad of money, it's probably even harder because now you're beholden to this big amount. You got to protect it.
Yeah.
And it's
So
something
you've earmarked it.
That's right.
Yeah. So we actually, the kids have to give away 5% every year of profits. We have to we give it to the Catholic Foundation. Wow. So we take that money and then we give it away out of the Catholic Foundation. We did not start a nonprofit. It was just it was too much paperwork, it was very audited by the IRS. Mm-hmm. It was just something I didn't want to deal with. And we had talked to Corey Howard and we started that, I think 20 years ago, started the Catholic Foundation. So it's a trust. It's the Jensen Trust in the foundation. So all the money goes to them, and then we give out annually to different really events.
Cool. I think there's a book I read. It was called Christian Fatherhood. I think Steve Wood was the author, and I remember there was a chapter in there, and he talked about in the book of Malachi, that was a place where the only time in Scripture where the Lord ever said to test him.
That's right.
To test him on this generosity, to give, and it will be given unto you. And there's something so freeing about that. I was just talking just this week, last week to the kids when we were in the car, and I was like, think about like the money that you're making, no matter how small it is, like to the point, like it's not like once I have the house and things are paid for, then I'll be generous. It's like it's easier to start it now and get into that habit by the grace of God to be able to give. And then what you realize is that those gifts that you give, the earnings that you have, you're able to bless someone every week with that. So it's like a weekly Christmas. You're going to bless somebody. You're going to give. What is it that's on your heart? Who do you want to give to? And give generously. The Lord, and to be cheerful. The Lord loves a cheerful giver.
We give, and you know, it's funny because Cindy and I have been giving a long time, but to get the kids to do it, it's a different
Yeah.
era. It's a different culture.
Yeah.
So it hurts them, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good hurt. You got to give. You got to give till it hurts. Cindy and I went camping one time in Wiggins, just she and I. This has got to be 1980 maybe. We were married a year. I had bought a house before we got married. My mom and dad moved, so I bought their house and in Gentilly. And I think we had a wash machine, no dryer. So we'd wash clothes and go to the laundry. So we go to Wiggins camping on Sunday. We go to church in Wiggins. And like the night before, somebody's house burned down. And they said, oh, we got everything we need, but we need a washer and dryer. Cindy and I bought him a washer and dryer.
Wow.
We didn't even have one.
Wow.
And I said, I asked, where are you getting the money from? So we got some saved up. So we bought this couple of washer and dryer. It was like, and I'm going to the laundromat. That's when it hurts. Wow. That's when giving is good.
Yeah.
That you sacrifice to help these other people.
Where did you? I mean, was that modeled to you, or where did that come from? Were you just trying to impress Cindy as a young man?
No, actually, Cindy. No, actually, it's Cindy more than me.
Yeah.
Cindy probably modeled me.
Yeah.
You know, look, it hurts. I'm like, Cindy, we can't give all this money away. She says we have to.
Yeah.
She wants nothing. You know, she give it away. So I'm like, and it's worked.
What a woman.
It really has, you know. So
My wife is more generous than me at times too.
Oh,
I'm like, wait, what did you do?
100%.
You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know that you're not outdone in generosity. You can't outdo God in generosity.
No.
Well, the reason we had to borrow Tracy's coat is because I got Lauren a really nice coat. We were out in Baltimore before we moved, and it's a cold day, and we go to the museum with the boys, get a lunch, and Lauren, like, she invites this homeless woman in to have lunch, and then she gives her the coat. I was like, don't do that. And she didn't even think about it. I was like, what are you doing, you know? And not a cheerful giver. You know? So I have a lot to learn in that department.
What a woman.
let's go buy one real
Yeah.
quick. Don't
That's
give
right.
yours. Right,
Yeah.
right.
All right, Jack. So selfishly, I've got a couple of questions
Okay.
for you too. So we've talked a little bit about the business, but so you've got all your kids in the business here. You said that wasn't really the plan. How did that work out? Selfishly, I've got 5 kids. To see a couple in some facet of the business would be a joy. And so I just kind of want to open that up.
Well,
a
I
bit.
kind of sent them on their way to college. Said, look, go get a degree and get a path.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't count on this. I didn't know if we were going to succeed, and I didn't have a crystal ball. You know, and I wasn't worried about the future. I was worried about me surviving to send them to school and feed them. But it just happened. I remember I had a salesman working for me. He was an older gentleman, and Christian was kind of hanging around a little bit, and him and Christian became real good friends. And he said, Jack, let him, come on, pay him $100 a week. Get him in here to come work for us. And man, he's a good-looking kid. He's running around with his old man. He's bringing all the customers, and it worked. And then Katrina hits. Katie's like, Dad, I got to come home. I need something. I don't belong here. She had made a comment to one of the her group director. And the Danes are all, it's a male world. There's no females in the upper echelon. And she's like, where are all the women? He said, well, the women do the work. We run the company. And she goes, well, I ain't working for this company. So she comes home, and I said, Katie, look, we're going to try this granite thing. Make it work. And they did. You know, so it evolved. It wasn't a plan. It was not a plan at all. It's just, it evolved. And when Monica said she's not working for us, I said, do what you got to do, babe. I was not at all pushing for her to come to work for us.
And maybe you don't want to put this on record, but I mean, with your kids, they've got gifts and talents. I mean, did you identify where to put? I mean, is there a reason Katie's running Grand? And I mean,
well, Christian started. It's funny you say that. Christian started with TCI, and then so Katie started with Triton. And 10 years ago, I gave 98% of the company away to them. Everybody got 14%, and I kept 2%. And I 2% of the stock, but 100% of the voting stock.
Yeah.
So I still had control. And they knew it. And I said, look, guys, it doesn't work. I'm selling everything. You know, I'll come back to work and we'll sell everything and y'all go on your own, basically. I said, find your sandbox, get in it, and let's play nice, basically. It's kind of the words I used. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing how close these kids came, how close they are today.
Okay, so we have to talk about this a little bit more. So this is so important when we look at succession in companies, in multi-generational businesses. We're talking about communication and alignment of vision and purpose. This doesn't accidentally happen.
So,
this is a big deal. How did you facilitate this?
So I saw companies, very good friends of mine, I can name three, I'm not going to name them, 3 or 4 companies that were family businesses, and I watched them implode.
Right.
I watched the
That's
brothers
normal.
screw the sisters. I watched the sisters screw the dad. I've seen it. I'm like, it's not going to happen with us. Second generation is going to make this happen. We're not going to close this up. This has got to happen. This is where we're going now. And if that's not what y'all want to do, I'm okay with it. Y'all all have talents. Go get a job.
Right.
I will sell our companies and move on, and Cindy and I retire, and y'all be fine. Everybody's good. But in the meantime, they want to take it on. And I got to tell you, so I'm at Katrina. I'm working on TCI. We're devastated. Warehouses are flooded. Office got flooded. 30 trucks are missing. Drivers not coming home. So we're struggling on what to do. I'm deciding whether to keep going. So Christian said, Dad, what we're going to do? And I said, Christian, I got to get TCI back up and running. Harry Lee, I was good friends with Harry Lee at the time, was sheriff of Jefferson Parish. He called and said, look, I need you to come to China. We're going to China to look for new business to help New Orleans. And the first thing I said, I can't go. Sheriff, I can't make it. I'll send my son. I'll send Christian. And so Christian's 42, so I guess 15 years. So anyway, he goes. And we looked at a bunch of stuff, and thank God we didn't get into the drywall because we had the warehouse to put it in. And I just said, guys, it's going to be a one-time deal. They'll bring in 3 or 4 ships, 15, 18,000 tons of vessel. We'll make a lot of money, but it's not worth it. So and I know the people that did it, and none of them are in business today. So I just knew to stay away from it. But so Christian's now working from. I said, Christian, go. Let's go find other things we have to do. So when I got the call about Granite, I sent Christian to him, and I went to Memphis to meet the people. We bought in the franchise, and then we started. I said, Christian, you got to get this going. And then when Katie came, we sat down and said, Christian, you got to help me run TCI now. Katie, you do Granite, and it just happened that way.
Where does that instinct come from? Like to know to stay away from this, to pursue that. That's a virtue of prudence. You know,
it's a being in general commodities from day one, and being in 1980, being a trucker in New Orleans, everybody had trucks, so we had to be a little different. So I went and got a warehouse. So I started warehousing business along with trucking, and you just kind of know your commodities. First off, sheetrock.
But even to know what commodities to get into, avoid, like, have you always had that good decision-making ability? Is it like, or just that second?
Like that second nature thing, I guess. I don't know. You'd walk in. So we got into a business. We used to do a lot of plywood and a lot of lumber. And then I'm down at the wharf hustling freight in late 80s. And there was a company bringing in baler twine from Brazil.
What's that?
Baler twine.
Yeah.
It's the round balls of that hairy rope that they use to bale hay with.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And it's it's shiploads, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 tons of baler twine. So it come into New Orleans, and then they were shipping it to the warehouses in all the co-ops around the country. And so they had trouble. I met the guy, and I said, "Yeah, I can do this for you." And we got doing it. And so I'm sitting there with him, and I'm talking about, so why are you going to your warehouse? Let me ship it to your customers. So then we started shipping direct. So they would I would truck it to a warehouse, pay me for that. You got to unload it, put it in your warehouse space. Then you're going to ship it out on other trucks. I was shipping it right from New Orleans. And it was a customer we had up till probably 5-6 years ago. They ended up, baler twine went out of business, basically. Everybody uses plastic now. So there's very little sisal coming in. But it was one of those lifetime accounts. I mean, it was my biggest account for 15 years.
Wow.
And it's just one of those events. It happened. We did a good work for them, and we changed the whole logistics pattern of trucking,
Really?
of their products.
Wow.
It was amazing. and it just, you see a product, you went after it, got it. I don't know anything about granite.
Have you ever felt like, I've had so much success where it's tempting to just kind of maybe ignore the faith, or how have you stayed close to the sacraments? How have you stayed close to the Lord as you've had more and more success, and stay humble, as you say?
So we moved to Mandeville in 2014. So probably 10 years prior to that, Cindy and I did 6:15 Mass every morning at St. Philip Neri. Father Saloy, Father Kenny, years ago, started that. And it really wasn't it was a funny story. It was for business people going to work in the morning.
That's right.
And he did a little homework and said 6:15 was a good time. You're out at 6:45, and if you got to be at the office at 7:15, 7:30, you're there.
Yeah.
And I used to go. It was a funny story. I'd go to Mass. Cindy and I would go to Mass, and every morning I'm counting 40, 50, 60 people in Mass.
Yes.
Then I started counting parishioners, 8, 10, and it was a group. It was this group of non-parishioners, guys going down the interstate or leaving Metairie, stopping in for church. I mean, it was awesome, and that everyday Mass set you on the right course every day. It gave you the leadership, the guidance, the tone. It set the tone for the day for me.
Yeah.
And I agree, but I think there's also, going further upstream, there's something that told you that was important. A lot of businessmen will say, "Yeah, I'll go on Sunday." But you're waking up early to have that extra effort, knowing that I'm going to allow the Lord to accompany me into this. Where did that come from?
Cindy, my wife, is a very, very religious person. Very, she's very into every day the Bible in a day.
Bible in a year with Father Mike.
She does all that. Look,
Bible in a year.
I told her, I said, look, I'm not doing it. That's not what I do. I don't want to hear him tell me. I'll do it at my pace.
Bible in 3 years.
If maybe.
Yeah.
But it's what I take more. I get more out of day to day. I just it's what I see, it's what I'm reading, what I'm talking to, people I'm meeting with, and it's just something that that it's important.
Yeah.
And it's been important.
Yeah.
Danny Abramowitz called me, met me and Cindy somewhere, and he said, "Jack, I need you in Legatus." And this is, man, it's got to be 20
This is the
years.
former Saints.
Yeah. And him and Joe Canizero and Steve Stump started Legatus here with the pizza guy, with Domino's guy, and we were one of the chapters. I don't remember which one we were, but it's got to be 22 years ago. And our first meeting where we were inducted was the Medjugorje guy was in town, and he actually inducted us. And Cindy's been in Medjugorje 3 times. She's going again this year. It's just, and it's just her. I feed off of her, and and Legatus has been a big thing for me. It's been a big, looking for that monthly dinner and meeting with the other business owners. You get a feel for what people are doing.
I see you not compromising on the principles of our faith, of the importance of the sacraments, the importance of community, the importance of fellowship, the importance of growing in the faith and learning about our faith. That's the thing that's so impressive, is because a lot of times people, business leaders, successful guys out in the field, whatever career, whatever field of study or whatever, those who we think that if you're going to get to that top, you've got to make sacrifices.
Yeah, whether politicians or business, you think that.
So you sacrifice. That's why it's you see so many families break down. You see children off doing crazy things because the family wasn't together, and then the woundedness from that, and then you see multiple challenges in relationships because the pursuit of that goal of success of business was the first thing on the list, and everything else was to the side.
Can I piggyback on that? Because I think a lot of times the outcome from viewing men or women pursuing rank or prestige or high place or wealth or honors is break down the family.
Yes.
They compromising and so it leaves the layperson who's trying to pursue faith saying, well, I guess if I'm going to be faithful, I have to be poor, and I have to not get into the city square, which is the opposite.
It is the opposite.
And I think it's so refreshing to see Catholic men and women succeeding in business, you know, and still having their families intact and still living a sacramental life, and using their gifts and talents. Because I think Christians have humility down packed, but we lack the gift of magnanimity, which is getting out to the city square.
Well said, Sam.
Well
know?
said.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Because the more you make, the more you give. And look, you get people with money, and these people give. It's just so much better for the whole community, the whole society.
Yep.
It really is.
Another thing too that we were hitting on earlier is that all of your children work for you, and there's no battles over money. You know, in my business, I see families torn apart over money, and it doesn't even have to be like large sums of money.
Yeah.
But you have everybody working on a team together, and you know, because your kids could have a really entitled perspective that you owe them something.
Mentality.
Yeah, and you've cultivated an environment of them working together, and it's more than the money.
It is.
And man, I think that's pretty difficult to achieve in the world that we live.
But you see that, I mean, the whole sink or swim mentality, that's how we should be operating as a church. Like, we're all in this together, like pursuing heaven. It's not like, you know, New Orleans versus the Diocese of Baltimore. It's like we're all in this together. And we should have that shared vision, which I think, were able to weigh into. I think a lot of dads would be scared to have that conversation, sadly. You know, like, hey, here's the deal.
Yeah, here's
like,
the
I've
deal.
got 100% voting stock. If you guys don't get along, I'm selling
Selling.
that.
It's,
Yeah.
and that was the
Pound
facts. And sometimes I'm a little hard too. Sometimes I'm like, look, if you don't want to work for us, go. And Cindy's like, can you reword that? She's like, would you reword that before you go tell me? Would you be a little
are
nicer?
welcome to Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, like, okay, so you're fired tomorrow. So of course
I
not,
still
but-
love you.
But you know, Drew, you asked a question. So you have to look at too the right way to do. I mean, I kept 2%, and I did it for taxes. I only get 2% now. I'm only paying that on taxes on that, but 100% of the voting stock. And you know, these it's not a threat. It's just now. So that's been I retired, semi-retired 10 years ago when I did this, and I kind of watched for the first 4 or 5 years. They got it, man. It's good. And then 5 years ago, I got on the Port of New Orleans. I was commissioner for the Port of New Orleans, and to me, that was one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done, because that's giving back. 100% of my work is port related, Port of New Orleans related, and for me to get on that board was just something that give back to the community. And I mean, geez and Pete, and what we've done, what the port has done and the board has done in the last 5 years. We're getting ready to open up a $1.6 billion terminal in Violet, Louisiana.
Unbelievable.
It's phenomenal of what's going to happen. We put 4 new cranes down at Nashville Avenue, $400 million worth of cranes. I mean, it's
Unbelievable.
It's the growth, and it's the again, going into customers' offices as a chairman and staying humble.
Yeah.
Look, we need you. You need us. We need you. Let's make this happen. I'm talking to the president of Hapag Lloyd. This guy doesn't know me, but he got it. He gets it.
Yeah.
And he can't wait to get the boats here. It's
That
just,
gift of humility is such a grace from God, and I think that's what, again, setting the tone when y'all would go to the 6:15 Mass and repeatedly, constantly, it's like, Lord, this is your day. This is coming all from you, and I can't do this without you. And I'm going to not just say that, I'm going to walk that. I think that's the kind of stuff that we need to, men, husbands, fathers, to really embrace that sacrifice of time, of self, to the Lord, and allowing that to really form and focus so that we don't get so distracted and so worried about so many things that can happen to us.
absolutely.
All right, Jack, I've got one more question. I feel like I could be here all day.
Okay.
But I want
We'll have you
Drew's,
back.
This is Drew's wheelhouse.
Yeah, this
You
is
see
I
how
love
excited
this
he
stuff.
is.
Drew wants to be Jack Jensen.
Well, I want to learn. I mean,
That's
it's a gift that, this is a resource that's hard to tap into because there's no rule book. Like,
There's
your
no
rule
rule
book is life. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about family. We've talked some business. Let's talk a little bit about like serving. Maybe that's the customers you talk to or your employees. Last week at Mass we talked about vocations, and one vocation is to go into the priesthood. The other vocation is as a layperson. How do we kind of serve others? How do you think about serving your employees, your fellow board members? I don't know, being a light of Christ to others in our day to day in the business realm.
Well, on the commissioner side, it was pretty tough because I was the only transportation logistics person on the board. We had 2 or 3 attorneys. We had a couple of developers, and strictly their goal was. And you got to be careful what I say here, but it was more about them being, maybe not a resume thing.
Sure. A lot of ego involved.
And they want to get on board, and so my goal was to instill in them what we're doing. And it was kind of hard at first, that I didn't want to be that. I'm not going to tell you how we're running this, but this is how we got to run it. But I got to entice you into this, because we have to make this happen, and we have to make this happen, or New Orleans is going to become a Gulf port. The ships today cannot fit under the Mississippi River Bridge. That's the whole point of building down in Violet. And if we don't build in Violet, we're going to have bananas here again, and that's all we're going to do. So our kids will move out of town. They'll have to go to a different port to continue doing what we're doing. But in the meantime, we're going to open up this terminal. And the commission was hard. And then when I as chairman for the year, the support from them was just phenomenal. I mean, we were able to do all this stuff. The employees, they know me. And I still got some people who've been with me since day one. And listen, my mantra is, I'll pay you a lot of money. I'm the best delegator in the world. This is what I got to do. Go do it. I'm on to something else. And I'll pay you enough money to make it happen. So, and everybody's happy. And it worked out great. But it's tough getting what's the word I'm looking for? It's tough getting my culture instilled in them. Mm-hmm. And you can see when the kids came on, it was a little bit of a different culture. And I kind of helped mold the path, if you will. Mm-hmm. So,
Jack, has it been tough knowing that you have these gifts and talents, you can start and run successful businesses, and to see the state administratively where we are as a church to be like, I can help, or I know people that can help, and maybe there's just a resistance or a lack of understanding. How do you feel there in terms of like just weighing in, like, let me fix some of this stuff?
Sam, it was tough. I was on a finance council at St. Philip Neri, and you could see the priests and back, they're great at what they do, but they're terrible businessmen. They go right along with doctors and lawyers. Terrible businessmen. They know their field. They know what they're supposed to do.
We just insulted doctors, lawyers, and soccer players all
All the same. And that's why lawyers, doctors, and will get a business person to run their company.
In the church, the laity, the clergy, I feel like sometimes we put up these silos, and it's like, you do your thing and I'll do my thing, and don't you tell me how to do my thing, and I won't tell you how to do your thing. And it's like, that's not the church that the Lord wants to be a part of. He's calling us to. He's calling us to be able to, we have our sandbox, but let's play and be responsible and respectful, but also to work together. And I feel like we come to the table with all these different strengths and blessings and gifts and talents, and that I think we're stronger together. And there's got to be a way that we can try to step in, start breaking down some of those walls, and start seeing how the church can really grow and thrive, allowing these strengths. And obviously, I'm sure the pastor, okay, I'll have 100% of authority, right? I got 100% of the say, but then 2% of the business, and let me see what y'all can do, and let's work together on this. And I think then that people will be more invested in the church versus it just being a stop that they do on Sundays.
Because they have apostolic hands that no one in their parish can celebrate Mass.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
General. But they also aren't running successful businesses,
yeah.
And so it's part of it. I love that way you structure it. Hey, delegate this. You've got people in your parish that want to help.
It's tough. It's, again, we all have our struggles, our hard, the ability to see the big picture, and we can kind of get caught in our own little traps. But just, again, being able to have that humility of heart that we all need to be able to see where the Lord is inviting other people into our space to help and to help us grow. And so
and it plays out on the diocesan level.
Yeah,
it plays out on the parish level, and it plays out in the domestic church.
So I don't want to throw stones
here.
Sure.
My wife's way better at something. I'm like, no, I'm in charge.
I've got this.
Yes. Right. And something also, Sam, you can't go too big.
Yeah.
You got to micromanage some to get big.
Yeah.
To go to jump in Archbishop Amon's shoes right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we pray for God. He's a
every
great,
day. I'm praying for
awesome.
the man because there's
a lot of stuff on his plate.
A lot of stuff.
More prayers, more support, and just patiently waiting to see and engaging our parish, our church, and seeing what can we do to help, and pray for that unity. Because again, I'm not trying to throw a stone or say that I've got all it figured out, but I'm just saying, like, I see something and I want to see more. I want to see it grow.
And it can just come from a suggestion
Yeah.
to one other person, and let that person go to
Yeah.
that type of thing. So yeah.
Well, this has been really a fun episode. Let's kind of wrap it up with some tactics and takeaways. Clint, you got anything that jumps out to you?
Yeah, just kind of going back to the Bible verse, how you're supposed to let your faith like permeate your life, and I just think that was, your story
Yes.
is a perfect example of the Bible verse. Your faith is permeating your life. Your faith precedes you in everything that you do. And for me, that's something that I need to pay more attention to, with regard to all of the major principles in terms of giving and, the way you run your business. I mean, Jason, I don't know how you did it, but you picked the perfect Bible verse.
Yeah, really.
Worked
Holy
out
Spirit.
perfect. So, yeah. And thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo what you said, Clinton. Appreciate so much, Jack, taking your time and again giving of yourself in a generous way to be with us today and share your story. And a great inspiration for me too. A reminder of the importance of the basics in our faith. To not let worries to distract us from the presence of the Lord in our life and the confidence that He is working in our lives. We just got to trust Him one day at a time, and then to be able to step out in spaces in love, to be able to see how we can serve others and have that servant's heart. So thank you for that witness.
Yeah, I guess I'll just move by the concentric circles. It starts with daily mass, starts with touch points with your family members, and then the work that you do to provide for your family and the community at large and the church. But it all starts with that relationship with Christ. And I think in the core of that, what really stuck out to me in all of this was just like learning not to worry. Learn not to worry. That's something it's easy to say, hard to put into practice.
So I'll tell you, for instance, my wife is a worrier. And I'm like, here's where it says in the Bible, you're not supposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's a worrier. And I'm like, Mom, you got to just let it go. And she said, well, I can't. I said, well, then pray more.
Yes, right.
Pray more. Pray more. Make the worry be your prayer.
Yeah, that's right.
Pray more, because that's. But again, it's inert. That's what she's made of. I don't want to say I just don't. I'm blessed with it, I guess. I don't know. I just don't worry. But knowing that the Lord's going to take care of this, that the outcome will be what He wants it to be.
But that's a childlike faith too. It could be temperament, could be character, but there's at the core of that is a faith of like, my Father's going to take care of me.
Yep.
And I'll touch on that too, because there are often times where I'm worried about some future circumstance that may or may not ever happen. Like I have a secure job, my wife has, we're blessed financially, all of those things, but I still have this like kind of phantom worry about the future. And man, like that, that's kind of like the devil, like riding on my shoulder a little bit. Yeah. And I think for the benefit of our listeners, because I know there's so many people out there that are worried about future circumstances and things that are beyond our control. Man, you got to really find a way to let that go.
Let it go.
Or not dictate today, and just move forward without having that weight on your shoulders.
Well, Drew, you had made a comment about seeing so many family businesses fall apart. And Jack, what you mentioned is that you said you identified some of the things that they struggle with, that they were blind to see. And so then you were intentional and you were aware of the pitfalls and the challenges. And so that's something that I think that we need to bring to the table. It's not just like, okay, whatever, worry and, don't worry about it and put your feet up on the table. Like, no, it's actively being in, yes.
Doing something about it.
That's right.
Not
making a plan.
That's right.
Making a plan, sticking to it, but then regardless,
Giving
just
to
trust to the Lord.
Yep.
Well, I think y'all said wonderful things. And so in addition to that, I just think it's so cool to see multi-generational businesses in separate businesses. I mean, there's just so much to learn there. Like, people probably don't geek out on it like I do, but it's so neat to give your kids the opportunity not just to say, hey, come be CEO. No, look, here's something new. You have ownership. you can kind of take our family culture and communication and grow that. And wow, it's just so inspiring.
And at the business level, the kids make good salaries. We take no money out to companies. We have no annual giving. All of our money goes back into the businesses. The kids get paid. They get the salary. They get a commission on success, and they're driven. They're driven by what they do. There's no gifts. There's nobody's getting anything. Nothing's free here.
Yeah.
There was no free ride for me and Mom, and it won't be for y'all. So every dime I get every day goes right back into the companies. So that way I ensure their growth. And I tell them this every day: if you're not growing, you're dying. You got to grow these businesses, and you got to make it happen. So right now, just real quick, the local domestic market is terrible. So we export PVC powder and pellets. Well, the international market is booming. Countries are building. So David's doing gangbusters with the packaging business, the packaging of the plastics. And the other kid's like, why is he making so much money? So what happens when he wasn't 2 years ago when domestic business was booming and he had nothing going on? Same with Triton. I mean, it's different. But stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. So it works. It works. So.
Praise God.
Very cool.
Good.
Well, Jack, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning into the Point Man podcast. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. Man, what another great show today. I want to thank all of our listeners for spending the time with us. I want to challenge you, if you've enjoyed this, please share this show with another husband or father that you know, or leave us a review on Google, Apple, or Spotify. We'll see you next time.
I was born a fighter. I rise up like smoke from a gun, like a brand new sun.